Evening, namaste. First, let me thank Dr. Swarna Kamath, Mr. Nachiepan and Vishwanathan, who are the coordinators of this event, and more importantly, all of the guests who are participating, trying to carve out the time to gather in this seminar series. And I do want to thank you for that. And what I'm going to talk, I'm a material scientist. I passed out from AC Tech 92, but then I moved on like Dr. T. Ramaswamy to University of Leeds. We both are alumni brothers, but far distance apart in terms of age and experience. And luck had it that I was asked to, I had an opportunity to do a sojourn at MIT Harvard. And that led me to a job at the University of here at Texas Tech University. And ever since I have been here. So that's a bit of it. So nearly 21 years, and every minute of it is momentous. Anyway, so I have been asked to talk about protective materials and protective equipments. I know most of you would be in the leather domain, but this doesn't specifically apply to leather or textile, but it's just a generic personal protective equipment. This has been my research for 20 years. I do work on materials for personal protection and sustaining and saving the environment as well as enhancing human life. So that's part of my research. And not only I teach and I'm an academic professor with lifetime appointment, but I also direct the Nonwovens and Advanced Materials Laboratory, and one or two leather chemists from India have taken a year sojourn in my lab, and one gentleman is in a senior position, a colleague of Dr. Kamath at Dr. Kant, Swarna Kant at CLRI. Okay, so I will be going on the fifth gear here because I've been asked to go as fast as I can because a lot of pictures and slide to cover. Okay, so what am I going to talk? So this talk is very relevant to what we are all facing, why we are here. It seems to be a new normal here, new normalcy here, that working from home is going to be a new normal. It's going to be a new phenomena which will be followed because of this COVID-19. This has brought the world impact on health, economy, and society per se. I didn't crunch the number yesterday. I sent the presentation 2 days back. So at that point of time, the global confirmed cases were nearly 3 million. Deaths were then crossing 200,000, and as of yesterday in America, the number of confirmed cases have already crossed 1 million. So much lives are involved. When lives are involved, the society gets haywire, and when the society and lives are tangled like this, obviously there is an economic downfall. Okay, so the recent International Monetary Prediction says this is a gloom. Will be only the gloomy side. Trust me. But I just want to place the scenario why we are talking about personal protection, right, to save lives. So the global economy is expected to shrink by 3%. This is a GDP number, provided that there is no second wave of this pandemic resurgence. If there is a second wave and there is a resurgence of this SARS-CoV-2, it's expected that this will be augmented by 6% more during the second half, that's third and fourth quarter. So overall, this is a rough estimate. Always economy is a lagger in that sense. So we don't know what is in the coming. About US $9 trillion will be wiped out from the global economy. This is in terms of real dollar terms. So we can see what kind of situation we are in. In this situation, first and foremost, as Dr. Kant was saying, protecting human lives is important. Unless otherwise a vaccine is coming, it will come. But how soon it will come, that's going to be the panacea. That is going to be the holy grail, right? But then the economy has to be rebooted. Are there some sections of manufacturing, apart from pharmaceuticals, apart from commodity food, are there some sections of the manufacturing sector that can play a vital role here? Yes, as long as it is related to human health, the sectors, the manufacturing sectors, the service sector will have its important role to play. That will be the lifeblood for the economy to kickstart. One among those sectors is personal protective equipment, PPE. So we will be talking about it. Change the next slide, please. So this is the take-home slide. So what should an industry do? If you are in a personal protective equipment, this is the thing one has to do. The products which you develop, whether it is I do have a patent on leather as well, so Kant knows that. I have a patent on leather ballistic proof jacket anyway, so which has been in fact licensed to a company in India. It's a coincidental thing, right? So what happens? So when you have to develop a product, particularly related to saving life, you have to take into consideration four. This is the take home slide. So it has the industry has to look into four. You don't have to be esoteric and look only this slide value of this slide only towards materials industry. It's applicable to leather as well. So an industry should focus on four S's. One, sense. We should analyze what's going on. Sense and analyze present and future, and then retool yourself, shape yourself to adapt to the future. So I do give management talks as well. So this slide finds application in all kinds of talks. Okay, sense. We need to know what's going on, then analyze it, then shape it. So one has to shape, whether if you want to be in a diet to shape yourself, or if the industry has to be put in a diet, or if the industry has to be put in terms of some sort of life enhancement, you should do it. That is called a shape. Then shielding, whether it's a shoe or whether it's a jacket, you are shielding. So this is applicable. So you have to develop product that will shield or protect. Once you are shielding, what if after shielding things doesn't work? You still have to sustain. So those are the four S's applicable to all. Sense, shape, shield, sustain. Next slide, please. So among those products which are used to do all these four, I'll be talking about shielding and sustaining, right? So even textile, leather materials can be used as well, but my talk doesn't specifically focus on any leather object. So what are these materials called? The materials, the flexible materials such as fibers, which are not used in your regular commodity fiber to fashion. Okay, those are known as technical textiles. Anything beyond the commodity, the regular fiber to fashion supply chain, aimed at providing a value, not specifically focusing on aesthetics, are known as technical textiles. Among those technical textiles, so many different versions of textile materials can be used. Fiber, in fact, you will be interested to know, as most of you would be a leather entrepreneurs. In fact, I am working with the leather industry in what is that place? In Ranipet, who is a alumni brother and of us. He studied with me and Dr. Swarna. Of course, we are colleagues. We went through the same batch. So he is a leather entrepreneur. And he and I are actually working as we speak on developing a PPE product. So this concept, we only focus on the concept, not on materials per se, even though his domain is different from mine. We came together to develop a PPE, okay, using his leather expertise and my materials expertise. Okay, so different types of textiles, woven textile, people now talk about using cloth covers, cotton covers. I'll explain something like that on those aspects. So these are known as technical textiles because they find some new application. Okay, what is the ideal solution? This is the total panacea. This is the ideal 100% solution we need to have to protect a human. Is this possible? No, because you are compromising the comfort. When you compromise the comfort, performance deteriorates. So even though this is an ideal situation, it's not possible. That is the reason we have different products like leather-based products, shoes and coveralls, and textile-based products. And this kind of perfect solution, which United States Army and of course Indian Army do, is known as Joint Service Lightweight Integrated Suit Protection Technology. It's mouthful. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, this is where it is. The domain what we are going to talk about is medical textiles. Among the medical textiles, you could have so many applications such as face masks, hospital gowns, surgical masks, and so on and so forth. This ballistic protection, what I'm talking, this is the whole gamut of the research I do in my laboratory, starting from defense materials to medical materials to consumer materials. In that ballistic protection, I have a patent involving leather, bovine leather, to give ballistic protection. Okay, and that is a soft white leather-based body armor that not only gives bulletproof protection, it also gives cut resistance. That's an IP which is being licensed to a company in India, and they are trying to get that released to Ministry of Defense in India. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, why we are using non-wovens? Why? What are the type of material that we have to use to protect your face, nose? These days is it's not a simple woven cotton cloth. Of course, it is better than nothing, but the material should have. That's one weakness would be if you take materials like leather, because not only they are heavy, they are porous, but they are not to that level of porosity what is expected to filter droplets, airborne droplets. They should be porous and they should have high surface area because these droplets should be absorbed by a material. Okay, so it should not only have a, it can be a three-dimensional structure. Leather can be, it can be woven fabric. That's base, but that alone is not sufficient. You need to have high surface area to hold and absorb these droplets, because in this particular scenario, the virus is carried by droplets. Sometimes they are aerosolized, so you need to have high surface area. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so as the name indicates, these are not your regular khaki kind of woven fabrics. That the take-home message you should have. I'm not saying that you should not cover your face with your ordinary handkerchief or things and so on, but they may not give ideal protection. So we have come up with a classification of masks, which we will show. Anything which is not woven is non-woven. Non-woven is the top of the line in terms of producing fibrous materials which are used for technical application where functionality matters. Next one, please. Now, then I will show you, this is one of the earlier definitions we did 20 years back to tell you what non-wovens are. Non-woven fabrics are liner, even for your leather jacket, which you may not know by name. The liners which you use in your shoe, right? The shoe liners are all basically polyester carded one. So those are known as non-wovens for your information. These are flat structures in the form of sheets made by bonding and entangling by different means, mechanical means, thermal means, and chemical means. I'll show you some examples in my laboratory as well. Just next slide, please. Okay, there are two types of non-wovens. The three-ply masks, which you all are now bombarded with, is known as spun bond melt blown fabric. Another one is a staple fiber, which is made out of cotton. So there are different classification of non-wovens. The liner material which you use in your leather goods as well. These are spun melt using synthetic fibers, particularly polypropylene. The characteristic of polypropylene is hydrophobic. That is why the masks are made of polyolefin. Polyolefin is polypropylene because they repel water and bodily fluids like excretions and blood and so on and so forth. And another one is a cotton-based structure, but not a woven structure, non-woven cotton-based structure. Okay, next one, please. And what are all the products you do? Lot of paddings and liner materials in automobile, in shoe, face mask, surgical gown, and hospital fabrics. Today's lecture, I will show you examples of all these. You would be all bombarded in television screens are screaming about N95 surgical masks. What are those? How do they look like? What are they made? Those are the things we'll be talking about. And these non-woven materials, what I alluded to before, find a gamut of application right from hospital settings all the way to your cars. So you might be bombarding with all these unknowingly. If you are driving an automobile, at least 20 kilogram of material in an automobile these days is non-woven. Okay, next one, please. So at least I am, for those not in the field, they may look into opportunities because non-woven, Government of India has put this as a thrust. And within the Ministry of Textile, there's 1,200 crore to 1,500 crore was allocated towards promoting and growing this field in India. So one such technology of non-woven is known as needle punching. You take a fiber, you have somehow, by some fashion, you arrange that fiber in a web or a mat form, and then you bond it using a set of needles. It is known as needle punching. India has a decent size of industry, needle punching industry, but they are all focusing on run-of-the-mill products such as automobile headliners, trunk coveralls, but the same technology can be routed to develop value-added products. Okay, next slide, please. This is my laboratory with $6 million investment. Okay, and this is what happens. The web comes in between these needle boards. the needles punch from top to bottom without breaking the fiber. You can even use a leather and sweep it like this. So the leather becomes more fluffy. Of course, you should have different set of leather and develop artificial leather. So this came out for developing artificial leather some 100 years back, and then the technologies evolved. So this is the needle, which basically punches the web of fibers to give the coherency. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what happens. You take a fiber and then you open the bundle of the fiber, you cord it to, in other words, you make it as a flat random structure. Then you increase the weight by adding number of layers, which is known as cross-lapping. And then these are some technical things. But then what ultimately matters is the process is reduced. So you are able to save money, reducing the operational costs, reducing the infrastructure. Predominantly, non-wovens are used for single use or semi-durable. Those products that last for 3 years or less. It doesn't mean that the fabric will, the material will go waste. The application finishes. So what is the advantage of it? The advantage is you are in supply demand here, because the materials are not used forever. So they are going to have a short lifespan. When they are having short lifespan, obviously the demand is going to be more compared to your undergarments per se as well. Okay, that kind of structure. Next one. So the next form, this is the technology that is used to make the face mask, which is known as melt blowing. You take polypropylene pellets, you extrude them. Instead of making into a filament, you basically lay them in the fabric form. That gives the randomized structure. When you have randomized structure, the barrier properties increases. So this is known as melt blowing. India is in dearth of this technology, very limited handful, less than 5 to 6 industries. That's all the whole country has. So this is what I have been advising the government to kickstart this sector in India, because this can find a lot of application. The problem is we don't have the machinery capacity here. That's a weakness. After this lockdown, the Indian industry should seriously considering taking up, not just simply working with an IIT or institution and come up with a prototype, a commercial scalable machinery setup. Even in textile sector, which India is number 2, we don't have machinery capability beyond spinning. So machinery sector has to be strengthened, but government is trying, but for some reason, this is not happening. The reason why I'm telling you is either then obviously for cost reason, we used to go and import it from China, and that's where it is. After a year or so, the machineries are not having efficiency to the level of 90% per se. That's it. You lock the investment, nothing happening. But if you have to get, these are all predominantly European-based machineries. Even United States is not a leader here, we import. So if that's European-based, then obviously it comes with a cost. So developing the machinery base is important. That may be a mid to long-term vision, but for the time being, at least a one-stop R&D facility fully supported by government for at least prototyping should be developed. This is not there. Even government India gave money to start advancing this sector, but for some reason, I think the melt blown process has been omitted. Not a single R&D unit, whether it's a CLRI, the polymer base, or the CITRAS and all these leading associations, they don't have it. So that's the thing which has come into attention of the government, and I think the government will do the right thing. Next one, please. So this is a variation of melt blown. Melt blown is weak. The purpose of melt blown is a barrier fabric, the liner material, the filter material. So strength is not important. But then when you are putting a bonding, heated bonding calendar, it enhances the strength. This is known as spun bonding. So the grocery bags, right? The bags we used to have it, reusable bags. Now the government of Tamil Nadu and certain governments of Maharashtra have banned it. That single-use bags are all made by this technology. India has abundance of this. Low-cost Chinese machine. Even then it's an issue, 1.6 meter wide. Most probably in Gujarat and Northern Hemisphere, they have. Pondicherry started it some 15 years back. In fact, I'm not bragging here. It was one of my efforts way back in 2000. If you Google me, you will know it. Hindu and all that covered me on the front page. So I created an awareness of this technology way back in 2005 in India. And I wrote the first roadmap for this sector in India in 2008, which government of India follows as of today. Next one, please. Right. So what are all the products you develop? All this technology, I have not talked in depth here, but I'm just throwing some pictures. They speak more than words. So if you use, this is the filter. The bottom portion consists of the filter which you are very familiar, whether in your car or in your air conditioning filter. These are all made out of polyester. Polyester material using some kind of a chemical as a bonding. The first one is a needle punching. Of course, that's an acrylic and cotton blend that gives that fluffiness. You see that it's fluffy. These, your bed sheets, your airline coveralls, these are all basically non-woven materials. Right, next one. Next. So this is the common thing which you are all aware, the reusable shopping bags. And among those products which have become a great sell and a must sought after products are your wipes, whether it is a femcare wipes or baby wipes or diapers products. All these are made out of non-wovens. This is a diaper. The diaper has a non-woven on the top, which is known as a cover stock, but the inside portion is pulp. The pulp is pulp and super absorbent polymers. Those are all polyacrylonitrile based products. Pulp, okay, pulp we do have, but again we have to import. We don't have the capacity to produce the super absorbent material, which is imported from Taiwan and some from Korea and of course from China, but they are not top grade. The top grades are predominantly basically European based and American based. Okay, and then this is one, if you go into hospitals these days, you see a single-use wipes. These are made out of a product called spun lacing or hydro entangling. So you take a fiber, particularly viscose and polyester, blend them, and then you bombard high speed, high velocity water jet. So the water jet bonds these fibers and you develop very thin. And this is the one you see in an insulation. This is the same kind of technology which you have it in N95. Don't quote me that this N95. No, the same kind of arrangement of fiber is what happens in an N95 using a melt-blown setting. So this is a high loft insulator material for thermal insulation. Your jackets, particularly if you are in Northern Hemisphere, you use these jackets. They all have wadding inside. And your upholstery cushion, your automotive liner materials, these are all this kind of products. Okay, all these can be made in India. There's only 5 different technologies available. These are available in India here and there. Okay, but only thing is there needs to be a concerted effort. And then people are not even knowing knowing that these are made out of non-woven. That's the problem. It's like a black box. So that is what I'm trying to get to you all, at least throw you some pictures of these products so some entrepreneurs can think, retool, repurpose their mission, their instrument, their infrastructure to do it. All these are different kind of masks. Now we come to the mask section. So we'll talk something interesting for next few more minutes and then I'll shut up. Okay, next one, please. Next, face mask. So why is this good? This is the thing which every television screens, all the news anchors, I don't know, they have become sudden experts overnight in face masks. So I do learn from them, looks like it. They teach me, of course, whatever it is. So this is what it is, the supply. Again, the problem is this sector is dominated by China. The surgical face mask is dominated by China, okay? Because of government infrastructure investment, which India should do. 85% of the surgical mask, the blue and green mask, which you see, right? It's still dominated by China. The market share of these products, not N95. N95 is still United States, not even Europe, okay? But this next to N95 is the surgical mask made out of polypropylene dominated by China, 80 to 85%. So this is what happened. And when Chinese economy breaks, whole world is in shambles. Okay, next one. Now we'll go to classification. Why this matters? Because the droplets, what we have to filter is very small. It will diffuse through any filter. Even if it is diffusing through ordinary non-woven, whereabouts with cotton face mask, it will not do any good, but it's better than not wearing mask. So I'm not advocating against the use of face covers. You should use it, but use it with some kind of improvement and improvisation, okay? So because these are very tiny particles, airborne particles, which are 100 to 300 nanometers, 0.1 to 0.3 micron.
It's 5 o'clock.
So it will diffuse through Okay, it will diffuse through the fabric material. So you need to come up with a substrate. You need to come up with a barrier substrate that will filter these tiny, tiny little bitty particles. Okay, next one, please. So how do you evaluate? Again, these are strict, particularly if you are talking about N95, those are governed by very strict regulations and coding systems, which has been codified by Food and Drug Administration, FDA. I do not know the equivalence agency in India, so I beg your pardon for that. But Food and Drug Administration, along with Center for Disease Control, CDC, and they have come up with some standards to certify these masks, and you have to first evaluate the filtration capacity. That is done by these kind of instruments, which I have in my lab. These are known as particle filtration efficiency testers, and this is a gold standard instrument coming out of Minnesota. They have been doing it for 50 years. Okay, next one, please. So how do you rate a filter? A filter is rated based on its filtration efficiency. If it's N95, 95% of the particles will be filtered. If there are 100 particles going through the filter membrane, 95 of them will not come out of the other side. So that's N95. That is known as filtration efficiency. Then it is also determined by fit and comfort. So there is an holistic picture. An holistic value should be governed not only based on filtration efficiency, but it should also have the necessary fit and shape. You all see the dome structure in N95 that gives the necessary fit and shape, so that enhances the filtration capability. So a filter should have 3 F's. One, it should have filtration. Second, it should have fit. And the third one, it should have comfort or form. So like we talked about 4 S's, in terms of filters, it should have 3 F's: filtration, fit, form, or comfort. You can have a very tight fit, but then if it suffocates you, what's the purpose? You will not be wearing it, right? So it should have 3. It's like a 3-leg stool: filtration, fit, and then form. Form refers to comfort. It should have certain amount of breathability to it. Okay, next one, please. Next, please. Yes, so this is, no, the previous slide, that's an important slide. Previous slide, please. No, previous. Okay, so now comes to this take-home message. Take-home messages you have seen. How an industry should go. First, you should sense. Once you have some sense, you should retool, that is shape. Then depending upon the industry, that is very applicable to leather industry as well. You have to shield. That is why you are in the business, shoe. Okay, shielding. And then once you shield, then you have to sustain. You develop with all kind of polishes. And I'm trying to give you as much an analogy as possible. I've been away from leather for a number of years, right? But for my shoes. Okay, so then you have to sustain. Then you have the mask system. What is a mask? A mask should first filter. So that is F1. F2, it should have a fitness so that it can cover your mouth and nose without any leakage. Then it should have some form that can give you comfort. 2 take-home message. This is the 3rd take-home. So what are the different kinds of masks? Depending on the particles you want to filter, you should categorize. The gold standard is a respirator mask. Okay, that is N95. The equivalency of N95 is Chinese standard KN95. Then comes the 3-ply surgical mask, which is dominated by China, which is nothing but plastic material. Then the fourth one is functional face mask. Right, so the functional face mask is an improvement from your face cover, and the third one is a functional face mask, and then the fourth one is basically your cloth covers which you use. Enhanced version of a cloth cover that has an insert of a non-woven material. This is our new category which we have evolved, and we have termed it first ever categorization of masks technology. Respirator masks, then surgical masks. Then comes cloth cover, which you are all using. It goes for 20 rupees, they say. Ordinary cloth covers from your t-shirt material. Enhancing the cloth covers with your filter substrate. An ordinary filter substrate improves its filtration efficiency. Please, there is a caveat here. I'm not saying anything can replace N95. You cannot, because there are so many components involved in N95, but people talk everywhere, even here. Oh, okay, I'm going to make N95. It's not that easy as you say, right? N95, respirator, it's N95 is the grade, whereas they are called as respirator mask, then surgical mask, which is a polypropylene plastic 3-layered mask, then face covers. In between surgical mask and face cover is a new category which we evolved, is known as a visor, like a visor. You have known what a visor is. Any material that covers and protects the vision is a visor, even a goggle. The sunscreen, so the sunshade in the car, the technical name for that is visor. Similarly, anything that protects the face, mouth and nose constitutes the face. Don't nitpick here. Eyes are also there. Yes, it's there, but we are not worried about it because you can use your ordinary spectacles and goggles. So to protect your face, most importantly, the mouth and the nostril, some kind of filter mechanism is known as filter face mask, filtering face mask, and the technical term we have coined is known as visor. Okay, so this is the first ever classification we have coined, and we have been vetting it out through many industry association for a month or so. Okay, next one please. So this is your ordinary surgical face mask, which doesn't have that kind of an efficiency as an N95 because it doesn't have the necessary filtration capability like N95 as well as fitness. So it's a loose structure. You can see a lot of looseness in this structure, but it's perfectly fine where your aim is to only protect bodily fluid, transmission of bodily fluid. This is perfectly fine. Okay, next one. And what is the basic component of the enhanced filter? This is the melt blown material we spoke. As you see, this is not a filament. Please, there are a lot of questions coming as filament. Filaments are different from a non-woven, period. Filaments have an oriented structure, so the air will pass in uniform fashion. You don't have, the main function of filter fabric is you need to disturb the flow of air. Somebody asked me, right, what is the difference between a non-woven and a filament? A filament structure like woven cloth, you will have a steady stream of airflow because the orientation of the fabric material is in certain direction. So their air will not have resistance. How do you filter? You filter basically by providing maximum resistance to airflow. If the air has to flow straight, linear flow, it will pass through easily. That's like an analogy is water flowing through before the dam. Then dam comes, then the water gets diverted, the velocity goes down. Similarly, you have to create a tortuous flow for air stream, and that's what nonwovens does. As you see, there is not a uniform orientation of the fiber. The fibers are on their own. These are rogue fibers. These are chaotic fibers. So they arrange on their own because there is no mechanism to streamline the flow of fiber when they are getting extruded. When the polymer is getting extruded, it self-assembles. So these came even before the concept of self-assembly became famous in material science. Okay, so these are all self-assembled fibers bonding on their own as you quench after melting. So they give you a ubiquitous distribution or a uniform distribution. That non-uniform but ubiquitous distribution. When you have a non-uniform distribution, it's going to offer more resistance to the flow of air. So this is the basic component. India doesn't have this technology. There are less than 5 manufacturing at the manufacturing level in India. So there is a serious weakness in this requirement in India. Okay, next one, please. So melt blown. So this is a typical, so as you see, these have these enhanced melt blown inside. These have minimum 5 to 7 layer of material. So it's not simply I take a material and I'm going to make N95. A lot of people, nearly 20, 30 emails I get every day. India, China, Chinese, no, and other countries as well saying I'm developing an N95. It's not easy. Some are patent protected, but 3M's patent may expire soon. So that if you do due diligence, you may be able to get around it. But one has to be very cautious of the existing IP. So we have to pay attention to this. So first do a patent search, IP analysis. And as I said, it has filter mechanism, which you won't see, it's inside. The next one is the shape and the fit. You see the dome-like structure, compact, tight fit. And sometimes some have the respirators there, the holes there with that plastic cuppings to give you the necessary form and comfort. So this is N95. N95 is kind of a grading, whereas these materials are known as FFRs, filtering phase piece respirators. Okay, these are used to to filter aerosolized particles. So that's what you need to know. You don't have to use it if there are no aerosol generation. Okay, next one. Next one, these are basically single use. The designation means that when it is tested, the respirator should block minimum 95% of very small particles of the size 0.3 microns. So virus naturally fit in this range, 100 nanometers to 300 nanometers. Okay, who governs this? Food and Drug Administration of United States. Next one. Yeah, okay, what are the functional? This is the functional face mask which we have developed. This is our laboratory. This is an enhanced version of a cloth cover mask, which has filtering mechanism here. These are on par with surgical mask, but nowhere near N95. That is not our aim. The N95, there are leading companies in the world, 3M, Honeywell, and a leading company in Japan. Those are some gold standards for N95. Okay. And our focus is to give enhanced filter mechanism to the common public better than the face cover. And these are known as filtering face covers or FICES. So this is the technology which we have developed, and we have filed a patent as well. And 3 different organizations are making this based out of, 1 out of India and 2 in United States. So it's already commercial, right? You might be able to see this here and there somewhere. These are known as FISOR, F-I-S-O-R. That's a new category of face mask that's emerging, came out of our laboratory during a short span of 2 months. Okay, next one, please. And so far we have dealt with mask. How can you improve and enhance the protective equipment, personal protective equipment, whether it's a face mask or an overall gown? You add a lot of functionalizing chemistry to it. So many different ways of functionalizing it. And one common way is to have a alkoxide, metal oxide, that will serve as a catalytic agent, and it will degrade depending upon the microbes and toxins you are targeting. Okay, so this is known as integrative protective systems. All defense agencies around the world, whether it's Indian defense or United States defense or European defense, they try with different sorts. So you keep on. The problem is, you will be able to obtain protection as long as you keep on increasing the barrier layer. Obviously, you are going to filter, right? You may even reach 99% filtration efficiency. But at what cost? It's not economic cost as well. It will degrade the comfort. So when it is not comfortable, when you are not letting, it's not air, it's a vapor we are talking. So somebody asked me the question, air is different from a vapor. Right. So we are not worried about passing of air. We are worried about passing of a vapor. Right. So that is one of breathability, moisture vapor transport. That's what needed. So it should not stop that transport. Its microclimate should be there between the fabric and the skin, or between your mask and the skin. Otherwise, you will suffocate. Right. So that's the problem. You can't don an N95 mask for more than even 1 hour to 2 hours. But hospital people are asked to wear for 8 hours because of lack of supply. Okay, next one. So you got to be cautious. There needs to be balance between protection and comfort. Next one is wipes. How do you develop wipes? The common wipes which you see are made out of polyester and viscose, which is a regenerated cellulose material. Polyester is not that hydrophilic compared to regenerated material. Cotton can also be used. There again, the problem, depending upon the toxin you are targeting, depending upon the microbe you are targeting. A simple form of developing, this is one of our commercial technology which Dr. Kant alluded to. This is known as FiberTech, fiber that protects. Its commercial, and all major United States defense agencies, Singapore Defense Agency, Czechoslovakian, Czech Republic Defense Agency use it. This was one of the early inventions from Texas Tech in our laboratory, which is known as decontamination wipe. So the same concept, you need to have higher surface area. How do you produce higher surface area? So many different fashions we can do. And our IP involves activated carbon. You know, activated carbon has a very high surface area, 3,000 to 6,000 meters square per gram, right? So these are all certain, it's mixing and matching. I'm not advocating an invention here. That's one thing I failed to address, which I will tell in the last as a closing comment. Okay, so one is overall protection, that is coveralls, whether it's a surgical drape or gown. Next one is a face protection, 4 different types of face protection: respirator mask, surgical mask, visors, and face cover. Then The wipes are predominantly used not for shielding, they are used for sustaining. After the contamination, after the virus lands on a surface, what do? Either you use your latex gloves, okay, or you need some mechanism to wipe it up, whether it's a fluid-based mechanism or solid-based mechanism. Fluid-based mechanism, you know all this, disinfectants and hand sanitizers, so on and so forth. And then the solid decontamination is, these are all sustaining mechanism. Okay, after the contamination happens, what if? When there is contamination, what do? You have to clean it. That is known as sustaining, or the better technical term for cleaning, the technical term is decontamination. That's all it is. You do basically using wipes. Okay, and again, non-woven structures are used. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, how do you develop? The same thing. My concept has been with all the consultancies I do around the world. My first target is what can you do with your existing infrastructure? It's easy to it's anybody can say, then what's the purpose of a subject matter expert there? Anybody can say, okay, buy this machine, put something there, invest money, do it. You don't need to have a subject matter expert for that. One of the principles which I have been successful so far, I think one of my clients is also in this group. They said they are joining. Anyway, I'm not going to name them. Right. So what I have done is with your existing infrastructure, what can you do? That is the same thing I am working with one shoe manufacturer in Ranipet. That person is a leather person. So with his existing equipment or it is existing infrastructure, with his existing manpower, can we do something in personal protective equipment? We have been very successful in a month's time to come up with a prototype. Okay, so what is this? The same needling technology, which is a run-of-the-mill technology in non-woven, we have developed a high-end wipe. The margin is huge because it is saving life. Okay, so it is a 3-layered structure. Your mask will be 5 to 7 layered structure. Your wipe will be minimum 2 to 3 layered structure, or even a single layered structure. If it's a single layered structure, then it's only a common consumer wipe, not a high valued or value added wipe. Okay, right. Next one, please. Next one, please. So this is how it happens, the needle punching. Okay. And this is the IP there. So this is what it is. It has 3 layers and the bonding happens only at the interlayer to avoid secondary contamination. So we have an activated carbon. What's the advantage of activated carbon? Activated carbon is porous and its surface area is enormous. When its surface area is enormous, it can absorb gas phase toxin. That is the issue. So how is this virus transmitted? Let's take the COVID situation. Virus is transmitted through droplets first. Then the droplets have to settle. So when the droplets settle on the surface, it has to be wiped. But by the time the droplet settles, the virus becomes in the spore form. So it's in phase changes. So the droplet has to be wiped. So you have a top layer. Then in the spore forms, the spores have to be held intact somewhere. There needs to be a repository for the spores. High surface area activated carbon acts as a reservoir for these spores. But by the time these land, already the virus is getting inactivated depending on the material. Okay, we'll talk about it in a separate lecture about it, what type of materials have to be used. But these are the concepts which we have developed for some different toxin, but the same concept, little bit improvisation, little bit repurposing helps. So the top layers tries to wipe away the droplets. When the droplets then contain sporocidal spore form of virus, then those viruses or bacteria in the spore forms have to be held tight in some kind of a reservoir. The activated carbon functions as a reservoir, and the bottom layer gives structural integrity and then avoids secondary contamination, avoids leakage in layman's terms. So see, this technology was developed for something. So it's always better. You don't have to be an inventor. I'll tell you that. Don't catch me that why this guy is saying you don't have to be an inventor. You don't have to be. Okay, we'll talk about it last. Next one, please. So this is the structure you see. Top, any material you can use in the top as long as they have some affinity towards water. The middle portion is activated carbon or charcoal. Okay, next one, please. So, and the next thing what you should do is if you are talking about cleaning, you can't use a paper. Why? Because paper is rigid relative to fabric. That's the advantage of a fabric because it's a flexible, right? So it should take the contour and the shape of the object that has to be decontaminated or clean. Non-wovens are the best, even better than woven structure because these are random fibers. So there's no rigidity there, right? Okay, next one. And then medical textiles, then comes the surgical drapes. These are predominantly plastic-based materials. Cotton is also used, but then the contamination becomes an issue. If you are using cotton, you need to wash it and all. Why non-wovens? These are single use because they are relatively cheap compared to your woven fabric. There are 4 different types of materials you can think. In the patient, that is highly regulated, on the patient, near the patient, and for the patient. So these are all there. So I just give you broader outline because this will open up the floodgates of your imagination. Industry can think of different products. Instead of telling I'm going to talk about mass, but if you just give you general category, then industry can come up with their own imagination. Sky is the limit. And then you can come up with the products. Then you can choose among these which is less risky, which is more risky, but with large margin is in the patient. Those are all sutures and transplants and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't recommend that for anybody and everybody. In the patient, on the patient, near the patient, and for the patient. Okay, next one, please. So these are all the things. What are, you can see all sorts of material, but for in the patient, near the patient, these artificial walls or drapes near the patient, on the patient, these bedspreads, right? Then these surgical gowns on for the patient, those things that the doctors wear, these are basically 3-ply face masks. And if a patient is intubated, if he's in ICU, where aerosol particles are generated because you are intubating the patient, then you need to use N95. Where was N95 used before? N95 was used only in hospital settings, that too in intensive care unit where people were in isolation wards when they are intubated. So the use was very narrow, limited before this pandemic came. And then that opened up this floodgate. Okay, then another set of things which is evolving is nanofiber. They are good. Technically, they are best, but are they viable commercially? That also you should see. A lab technology may not be always viable commercially. Nanofibers are there. I'll give next slide. You know what nano is. I'm not going to give you a definition, but I'll give you an analogy to explain why there's so much hype about it. Commercial scale of production is an issue. Cost is an issue. Durability is an issue. Okay. So a melt-blown fiber in a surgical mask, each filament or a fiber, filament is not a technical term, but a lot of people are putting chat questions like that. Okay. These are fibers whose size diameter is less than 5 microns. Whereas nanofibers are less than 1000 microns, less than 1000 nanometer, less than 1 micron, right? So the difference is nearly 1 order variation, 10 microns to 1 micron size, okay? Nanofibers come in less than 1 micron size category. Technically, they should be sub-nano, but in textile materials, they are not sub-nano, they are sub-micron fibers, okay? Next one, please. Okay, next one. This is a very good example. I even show graduate students. So this is the difference. On the left-hand side, you see is the coffee straw. And the right-hand side, you see the right-hand side, you see the coffee straw. Left-hand side, you see I'm talking to my direction. The left-hand one, you see the stirrer. For a given area, you are able to pack more stirrer as against a Coke straw, right? As against the Coke straw. So which one would be better? We need more surface areas. So coffee straw is always better. That's what nano is. The difference between a nano and an ordinary fiber is a difference between a coffee straw, a Coke straw, and a coffee stirrer. Okay, next one, please. And how do you produce nanofiber? There are 3 major. This was one of our early classification we published in the year 2005, I guess, 15 years back. Widely quoted. In fact, one of the highly cited paper with nearly 2000 citation is my paper in JAPS on this, electrospinning of nanofibers. Constantly for a number of years, this is the highly accessed one from Wiley. Okay. That's a bragging right for a professor. Okay. So we can produce this small fibers using mechanical process or chemical process or electrical process. Commercially, people are using electrical process, hence the name electrospinning. Next one, please. Okay, now I do write information, one-page article, that's it. It's known as snippet. Any invention that is taking place in the materials, not all. I have only limited manpower, and I also cover marketing aspects. I do cover R&D aspects, and it's being sent around the world. Already 3,000 subscribers to it for free. It's known as Tech Snips. Snips refers to snippets. So if you are interested, you can send me an email s.ramkumar@ttu.edu and you will be automatically subscribed to it. Not all may be useful. If it's not useful, you can put it in your junk folder. Okay. How should we go about? I can't be an inventor. You don't have to be an inventor as long as you are able to innovate. Innovate is different from invention. As long as you are able to address the current situation using the existing setup, existing technology by just mixing and matching or making a cocktail to come up with products that have certain improved capability, address the requirement as well as provide some balance in terms of economics. You can come up with technology, but if the market is not able to buy because it is not at the price point, then it's of no use. So in the time of this necessity, inventions, the very few inventions will fly, but innovations will fly. Innovation is basically using the existing, whether it's your manpower, your ideas or your contacts, anything. So as long as we are able to innovate, you don't have to worry about disruptive technology. Invention should happen. That is basically mid to long-term vision. Immediate vision is take things, put things together, make a kadambam, as you say. Yeah, carrot edukarom, enna beans porrel, takaliya porrel, ellathiyum potu kodam pandromo. Same thing. I hope many could understand Tamil. That is known as innovation. Innovation is need of the hour. What all the examples I have shown, nothing is in invention basically, but they are all innovation. Technology from one field, bring that to the foray, like plasma technology, corona discharge technology, put it on a melt blown, the fabric becomes charged. When the fabric becomes charged, it's going to attract an opposite charge particle. That's it. If virus is negative, you have a fabric that has a charge of positive and negative, it's going to attract. So innovation is the need of the hour. If anybody is interested, you can send me an email and I'll subscribe to the list. With that, I do want to thank, I think we are coming close to the time. I do want to thank, and I may be willing to take few questions because I have to go for another event as well. And then be safe. I want to thank Dr. Kant, Mr. Nachiepan and all others.